The United States has announced it has sent military support to Cameroon. President Barack Obama told the U.S. Congress that forces were deployed on Monday. Surveillance drones and 300 troops will support a joint West African effort to defeat Boko Haram. The militant group is well known for its attacks in Nigeria, which have spread into neighboring Cameroon and Chad. White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest says the troops are armed for defensive purposes.
So just to be clear about the U.S. military personnel that were deployed to Cameroon, they are armed, but they are armed for the purposes of force protection and providing for their own security. They will not be there in a combat role, but rather to provide force protection to allow these airborne intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance operations to commence.
All right, let's get more on this. I'm joined by TRT World's Fidelis Mbah, who joins us in the studio. Fidelis, this is actually quite an interesting development because it goes against the Obama doctrine. Tell us about the significance of this U.S. troop deployment.
Well, this is actually interesting because, this is like the first set of combat troops being sent to Africa at the moment because the U.S. has no combat troops on ground. I think he aligns to, recent reports that the U.S. is increasingly concerned about the growing insurgency in Africa, especially in the area where Boko Haram is controlling. And then they're actually not really specific as to what they want to do. Because if you're saying you're arming your troops to be on standby for intelligence gathering, for surveillance, what does that mean? What if Boko Haram attacks these people? Yeah. Definitely they're going to, retaliate, and that might actually escalate. Seems to be like an open-ended commitment up there. All right, so where and how exactly will these troops be used? Well, we are deploying to a place called Garoua. Garoua is in Maroua area, which is in northern Cameroon, just on the border with Nigeria. And we're talking about an area very close to Sambisa Forest, which is the stronghold of Boko Haram. And Sambisa Forest is almost twice the size of Belgium. It's about 60 square kilometers. And it's a very vast area. And the U.S. is saying we're deploying to that area. There's no clear demarcation between the boundary between, Nigeria and Cameroon boundary. So there's a tendency for them to, at intervals, stray into Nigeria territory, stray into the territory, with Chad.
Chad as well.
What this means in the coming days is actually what will be very, people will be very keen to observe.
Do we know how long these U.S. troops will be based there?
Well, they are saying that the U.S. government is saying the troops will be on ground as long as they are needed. And so this is also more like an open-ended, deployment. They can be there for 10 years. The Cameroon government might say, look, stay here, we're not safe for the next 20 years. That means that troop will be on ground. And especially with now that Boko Haram has changed tactics. Now they're no longer just going for open confrontation. They're using suicide bombers, and this is increasing. So this it might just be as long as possible, as long as they can. It might not be something that we're talking about maybe a few months, a few weeks. No, it might be years, actually.
All right, Fidelis, thank you for shedding some light on this.